Richard, you have an extensive background in all of this, but kind of just tell me your trajectory from studying this scientifically to now being a journalist, reporting on all things brain.
I used to be a neuroscientist. I studied neuroscience in college, looking at fruit flies. I went to graduate school at Johns Hopkins, got my PhD, and decided to write about science instead of doing it. And now I get to think and write about the brain all the time.
All
Yeah.
right, now I got to ask you about the fruit flies, dude.
Yeah.
What did you learn about fruit flies?
So I was looking at how they fight each other, and using that as a model for depression. So we'd have two male fruit flies fighting over a cup of food and a decapitated female. It's a great prize for them. But
Why?
eventually,
Why is she decapitated?
it
And why
was
is that the prize?
they still want to mate with her.
Oh man,
And
that's
yeah,
twisted.
it was an interesting discovery in the lab that was still appealing to them, but it made it easier to make sure the female was just always on the territory. But basically, the male flies would fight, and one would win and drive the other off the cup. That loser fly basically loses all subsequent fights. It has this the loser effect is what we called it.
A
This
loser
loser
mentality,
behavior. Yeah.
self-defeating.
Exactly. Or something is changing in their behavior after that first time. This is the first time that either fly encounters another fly. They fight. And after that one period of loss, the loser fly continues to lose. And so we're trying out different drugs that are used in mood disorders to see if we could reverse that as a way of, finding new drugs that might apply to depression in humans.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you could just first humor me a bit, Richard, and tell me, could you just describe the brain? What does it look like?
Yeah, I actually had this great experience in the first year of graduate school where I got to hold a human brain. And, it's about 3 pounds. It's pretty hefty. It's a little squishy pink when it's fully perfused with blood. Has a lot of grooves, a lot of these folds that allow you to pack in so many neurons. And then, it's just magical to know that this is inside you. A lot of folds. That's, I guess, one thing that I knew, but it was fun seeing in person. Yeah.
So, can you tell me what exactly our brains do? What's my brain doing right now?
Oh yeah. It's so much. It's like I don't think do it real justice. But yeah, if you think about right now, you're listening to me, you have to get the auditory information, you have to process it, you have to understand what I'm saying, you have to think about how this compares to previous parts of the conversation. You're maybe bringing in knowledge you have from before, but you're also, still collecting other sensory information that you're filtering out. Your brain's doing a lot of filtering right now. You're probably not feeling the fabric of your pajama-looking shirt as much.
Hey,
Um,
hey, it does kind of look like a pajama shirt.
but you're also you're sitting in a chair, you're not but your body knows that, your brain knows that, but it's not giving you that information because it's not relevant right now until I
Right.
mentioned it. You're also feeling things maybe feeling a little awe, thinking about all the things that your brain is doing all at the same time, even without you knowing it. Maybe a little annoyed that I'm still going on about this. But it's it's thinking, it's feeling, it's sensing, it's deciding. It's doing all these things to help us adapt to our environment, to help us live and hopefully thrive in our lives.
When you put it that way, it's pretty darn cool. So yeah, it's doing all of these things all at once, including sort of ignoring what's around me, but ignoring in and of itself is an act of my brain.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has to prioritize, right?
Yeah.
You only have so much attention. You need to figure out where it's best, used. Um,
How long does it take for our brains to fully develop?
That's an interesting question because, in one sense, our brains never stop changing because we're still learning things, and in order to learn something, it has to change. But there are periods of development that we know of. So when we are born, we are actually born with more neurons than we have in our adulthood. I think about 100 billion, and then we lose about 15 million, leaving or billion to leave us with about 86 billion neurons.
Where do they go? Do they just die off like stars?
Yeah, they're sort of pruned off, right?
Hmm.
Like, and not only the neurons, but the connections that they form. These connections are, how we wire up, ways we think, ways we behave. But when we're born, we have a lot more connections than we actually need or use. So we actually lose half of them by, I think, like age 2 or something.
Interesting. So when we're born, because I have read this before, that when we're born with all these neurons, and then the brain does go through the pruning stage. Because I think I remember even reading that in like one of the baby books, right? Like, we prune. But one can't help but wonder, like in the very beginning, when all those neurons are there must be some sort of evolutionary purpose for us to have so many in the very beginning. Is it just because we're a brand new human and there's just so much going on? Like, what's actually happening then?
I mean, one thought is that we're given all these possibilities for what our brains need to do in the world. And as we're learning what's out in the world during the first few years of life, you're getting rid of the stuff that's extraneous, and you're sort of sculpting your brain to adapt to the life you have right now. So that's one view, is like you just have a lot of potential, a lot of things but you don't need necessarily.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How do we know when our brain is in its final form?
I would say when it's in a lab and a first year grad student's holding it, I guess. Because like you're still going to be learning. You still have to face the world, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to, navigate traffic, like figure out what you're eating and things like that. Like your brain is always adapting and it's also predicting, it's trying to keep you alive, right? Like the changes won't be as dramatic as in your first few years of life, but it still has to change because
Right.
you have to change to a changing world.
Right. You're
Yeah.
constantly adapting. Is there possible to actually prioritize or categorize brain functions from like most important for daily life to least important? Or is that sort of like, no, it's all sort of like this coordinated dance and we can't really, for example, like
Yeah.
cognition, memory, info processing, hearing. Like, I don't know. Is that,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think it's funny. I was laughing because I'm like, well, those are like the sexier functions, the ones that we think about, right? Like,
Right.
oh yeah, like I want to be like cognitively nimble and stuff, but like I also need to breathe, right? Like the brain's also controlling that. So I was like, yeah, like I guess I would rank the less sexy like maintenance functions of breathing, blood pressure control, like pretty high, but um but for making our decisions, for making sure we're doing what we want to do and
Yeah.
prioritizing, yes, like memory is really important because it gives us continuity in our lives, and we need to
Right.
be able to think, we need to be able to connect.
Okay, well, what happens when the brain starts to age? Because I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm forgetting things more often. Like for me, I'm
Mm.
always forgetting a couple of things. I'm always, I either forget, I can't remember where I put my phone, or I can't remember where I put my glasses. Or like sometimes if I'm at a party and I see somebody and I know I've met them more than once and I can't remember their name, is this normal?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like normal lapse of being a human that's not perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's totally normal to forget some things because you prioritize the information you hold on to. There's other reasons why you might not be able to retrieve it or remember it in the moment, like stress or something that's not related to your overall ability.
Mm-hmm.
It's more when these lapses become very common or like very disruptive to your life, or these lapses are, very severe or unexpected. Not someone you met at a party, but maybe like someone that you've known all your life. You suddenly don't remember their name. I think, but that's a pretty big jump to go from everyday forgetfulness to something that you might want to talk to a doctor about. There's a few areas of cognition that we could think about. One is processing speed, how fast we can take in new information and respond to it. There's crystallized intelligence, which is basically all the knowledge that we accumulate, that we learn through our life. And thankfully, this gets better with age. Memory is, that thing that allows us to recollect the past and use that information, learn new information. And, that tends to decline as well, along with our processing speed. And as we mentioned, there is some atrophy that happens normally, as in, our brain shrinks a little as we age as well.
Right.
Yeah.
The crystallized intelligence, you say that it gets better with age?
Yeah, well, I mean, we are accumulating more knowledge, right? And
Right.
the good thing is, it's something, especially if it's something repeated, it's something that tends to stay. We're able to consistently strengthen that. Also, language also tends to stay pretty solid.
Okay.
But yeah, this gets into when does it become a problem?
Yeah.
We all forget things, and it could be for many reasons. You might be stressed, you might be distracted,
Or
but
tired.
or tired. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
so many factors that go into our brain's ability to function the way we want it to. But it's more when it becomes a problem for your day-to-day ability to live your life the way you want. So if you're forgetting a few names, that's fine. But if you're forgetting someone really close to you, someone who you see a lot, or if you're, not able to remember that commute to work that you always take, that's when, you might want to talk to a doctor just to see. And another thing is if your loved ones or friends notice something, they might be the first ones to pick up that oh,
Right.
you're taking a little longer on something that you were, really quick on before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the crystallized stuff should stay with you, but once things that you've been doing every day for, say, decades or even just a few years, you forget to do that, then that could be cause for alarm.
Yeah, because
Okay.
that would be unexpected and not in the normal range of healthy aging. Yeah.
Okay.
And one interesting thing is it's not just this or the crystallized intelligence that's better, but there's this idea of wisdom with age, right? You're maybe able to better, you might be slower at processing new information, but there's some studies that suggest that older people are better at prioritizing, paying attention to things, ignoring
Mm,
distractions than younger people.
that makes sense.
Maybe because you don't have the capacity to pay attention to 20 things at once, so you don't need to. You figure out that, oh, there's only a few things I need to prioritize.
Oh, I
So
love that.
that's another way of adapting too.
Right. There's also
Yeah.
sort of like an evolutionary lesson there in terms of
Yeah.
as you get older, it's yeah, you know what really matters.
Yeah. I mean, you've spent your whole life
Yeah.
trying to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that. It's poetic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see why you got into neuroscience.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful. I mean, it's the story of us, right?
Yeah.
Who are we? How do we feel, think, do the
Okay.
things we do? Yeah.
Could you explain dementia?
Yeah. So that's there's normal aging where we do maybe slow down a little, but then there's unhealthy aging, and dementia is this umbrella term for when you have this progressive decline in your cognitive ability. Alzheimer's is the most well known and the most common, followed by vascular dementia, which is the second most common.
So my lay understanding is that Alzheimer's is typically genetic.
Yeah, so Alzheimer's is the hallmark of Alzheimer's is these amyloid beta plaques, basically these sticky substances. It's wastes that accumulates in the brain that seems to at least present in Alzheimer's and may be related to degeneration in the brain. Vascular dementia is, vascular, so it affects your blood vessels in your brain. So you might be having a lot of small strokes that cause damage and lead
Mm.
to these cognitive symptoms. And then less commonly, there's frontotemporal dementia, which is what Bruce Willis was recently diagnosed with.
That's more rare. Like
Yes,
most common type is Alzheimer's, and then
followed
there's
by vascular.
followed by vascular. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, how can I tell the difference between, say, early onset dementia, or if I'm just having a series of off days?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically you need to go to a doctor if you have signs of unexpected things that you're forgetting,
Yeah.
or confusion. If you're picking up your phone and not knowing what that is, like, those are signs that should consult a doctor, and then they could run some tests. The FDA recently approved a blood test that has pretty high accuracy in detecting basically these amyloid beta plaques, or like getting a sign that they're there.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it could be a way of getting early diagnosis, early detection. It's not perfect. You also need, more medical history. You need brain imaging, but it's the clinicians who are able to do these more detailed tests to get an idea of what's going on.
Is there potential for plasticity in the adult brain? Like, how much resilience can we keep building later in life?
Yeah, the good thing is there is still plasticity in the brain. There is still ability to build that resilience. So, as long as you are still changing in the world, you're still engaging with the world. The neuroscience research suggests that about half of dementia cases are actually preventable. There's like these risk factors that we know about that we can modify. Some of them are, maybe intuitive, like, cutting back on smoking, like not drinking in excess, but also things that like we want to do to keep healthy in general, right? Like physical exercise is known to combat like the inactivity, the obesity, hypertension that's associated with dementia risk.
Right.
Diabetes is also a dementia risk.
So why is that? Why is diabetes a dementia risk?
Yeah, so it's metabolic. It causes inflammation. It's related to cardiovascular conditions, which
Right.
could affect the brain. Our brain only is about 2% of our body's weight, but takes like 20% of the energy that our body produces. So it's like very intensive.
Oh, I don't
And
think I knew
so,
that.
yeah, it packs a big punch. Like at least those are the numbers that are commonly
That's cool.
cited. Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
does. It holds its own.
Yeah, but it's also means it's vulnerable if like things downstream that are feeding it, like nutrients, giving it oxygen, if blood flow is disrupted, right? It's vulnerable to not having that.
And that would make you vulnerable to vascular dementia,
Yes, yeah,
particularly, especially
exactly.
if you're smoking, if you're not eating right, and if there's inflammation constantly, then yes, that obstructs flow.
Yeah, and also we know that like depression or social isolation is a dementia risk factor. So, making sure that you keep connections and continue to do like new things in your life, like to be stimulated, to keep your mind stimulated.
Right. Yeah, we did a whole course on connection and how critical that is
Oh,
to.
awesome.
Yeah, it's just a quality of life. It's key. I mean, so much of it's common sense, and yet we really do need to be reminded.
One other thing that was surprising to me is hearing loss is also a risk factor for dementia that we could address too.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You might be, struggling to hear, so you're using up resources that you could be, like if you were able to hear someone's speaking, you have to use other resources to sort of compensate, try to figure out what they're saying. But also the whole getting more sensory input, like you're getting less of it now, and probably garbled information. But the third part relates to socializing too. Like it's harder to make connections if you are struggling, like at a dinner party, or it could cause people to withdraw because they're not able to enjoy time with others as much.
Right.
But the good thing is, like, you could protect your hearing when you're younger, but also get your hearing aids when you're older. And
Right.
there's some studies that suggest that actually improves people's like cognitive outcomes. They have hearing loss, but they're able to get their hearing functional again, and that's good for your brain.
Wow. Okay. So get your ears checked.
Yeah.
I have to say, as I'm getting older, if I go to a restaurant or a party, I really have to lean in to hear what, my company is saying, what, my friends are saying, because it's like that background noise seems to be way more.
Yeah.
It's just really competing with what I want to hear. Maybe I'm going to go call an audiologist after this
Yeah.
interview.
It's not a bad idea, like to get checked occasionally.
You've been writing about the brain for a while, first as a neuroscientist and now as a journalist. From your vantage points, what are some practical tips people can do to maintain good brain health?
These are the things that your mom or dad probably tell you as a kid, but stay fit. Like exercise is so good for your brain. It, helps you get the blood pumping to your brain. It increases blood flow there. It's good for the rest of your body, which is good for your brain. Diet, like ultra processed food is probably not good because it's inflammatory.
Right.
There's some good studies showing that Mediterranean diet, high in nuts, veggies, like that
Yeah.
sort of thing is not only good for your health, good for your brain, but might also reduce dementia risk in some people. Um,
Right.
yeah, stay
Those
social.
omegas, those fatty acids,
Yeah,
and staying social.
staying social, yes. Staying social, maybe volunteering in your community,
Mm.
like things that not only connect you to people, but to the world and maybe to some other purpose that can keep you going.
Hmm.
And maybe related to this is like cognitive stimulation, like you're learning new things, you're, like maybe doing some puzzles, like things like that
Yeah.
can keep you sharp. And there's also the emotion component. I mentioned earlier that depression is a risk factor for dementia. So it's like, we know stress chronically is not good for the brain. So we also need to find time to find joy and calm in our day-to-day lives. It's hard at times. It's a stressful world. But it's like, try to find time to reflect on what makes you, grateful. Trying to find the little joys in your life that you can repeat. And sleep, I
Oh,
guess. Yeah, yeah.
so
Sorry.
key. Yes, sleep.
Yes. Yes.
Though if you have a new baby, good luck
Yeah.
to you. Richard, you've given us a lot of information on
Mm-hmm.
what is and isn't a healthy brain, especially when it comes to memory and cognition. But I'm curious, are there ways we can measure these functions? Like how do we know what our baseline is for brain health?
Yeah, so there are cognitive tests that you could self-administer. One that is free to administer for yourself is called the self-administered gerocognitive
Hmm.
examination,
Also known as SAGE.
also known as SAGE,
Okay.
which you know can give you a sense of how you're performing on different memory tasks, on um, processing visual information. But like for more accurate exams, you would want to go to a doctor and a professional. I know it's something that people can be really anxious about, but it's maybe something to be aware of, but not stress overly much about. Like still live your life, right? Like I think that's actually probably the healthiest thing you need to do, and just pay attention if anything is amiss, but also try to pay attention to the good things in life and focus more on that. Um,
That's good advice. I
yeah.
mean, are there simple ways, like sort of simple everyday things people can do to check in on their brain health? Like you just said,
Mm,
don't obsess over it, but
yeah.
um, staying active is definitely one of the things you had mentioned, and like sort of stimulating your mind. For example, I've really gotten into crossword puzzles, like
Yeah.
doing them consistently.
Yeah, me too,
Else.
actually.
Nice. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, and sometimes they're incredibly humbling, and
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like a wizard. Sometimes depends on the day.
Yeah, I think hobbies like that are really helpful because, you're not only, challenging yourself, but it also sort of gives you a baseline that you can sort of see over time, like, as you improve, or like maybe you're not doing as well. And that could, like, if it's a long period of time, that could be a sign.
A question that actually a friend of mine had for me was, is dementia being diagnosed earlier? Or do you know, just like in your reporting, if dementia is being diagnosed earlier because we know what to look for
I
better than we
think,
did before?
yeah, I think so. I mean, we have definitely better tools and there's more awareness of it. And, doctors are also trained to look for this.
Yeah.
Um, I think the new blood test is actually also really promising because it makes this early screening much easier. Before you had to like go in for a whole procedure, get a lumbar puncture or do some like intensive scans. Whereas a blood test, like if it comes back positive, then you could do follow-up tests with relatively little. So I
Okay.
think I think that's it's a good sign that we're able to find it earlier and like help people out earlier too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing too, gosh, I'm haunted by a story I read about microplastics
Hmm.
and how people with Alzheimer's, like the brains of Alzheimer's patients, had a higher amounts of microplastics. Can you speak to that?
From my understanding, those studies, that's a correlation. They are able to look at autopsies of people who had or didn't have Alzheimer's or dementia. And I think that correlation, we don't really know why. But one thought is that these microplastics, they're not supposed to be in the brain. It may be damaging, or it's also causing neural inflammation, which could damage brain tissue. But it's like a lot of things can cause neural inflammation, but there's things that we can do to try to mitigate our risk.
Right.
Yeah.
Minimize it, especially when you say that 50% of dementia cases can be
Yeah.
prevented.
Yeah.
It seems like the 50%, though, was speaking directly to the vascular dementia, right?
No, it's all dementias.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
including Alzheimer's.
Yes,
so
exactly.
The plaque, so just so I'm clear, like the amyloid plaque
Mhm.
buildup is preventable to an extent if we make certain lifestyle choices.
Yes. Yeah, like there's a genetic component to these dementias. But actually, one of the new studies is like the people who are at the most genetic risk, they had the most benefit for switching to a Mediterranean diet, like in the reduction of dementia risk. That I think it's really promising and empowering to know. Even with a genetic vulnerability, you could still do something.
That's really promising because it does feel like we have greater control over our lives and our, what's in our futures. I would like to know, Richard, what do you like to do to keep your mind sharp? Because this is your wheelhouse and you're always reporting on it and thinking about it. And so it's like, yeah, what do you like to do?
Yeah, I personally, I love rock climbing. I love going out in nature and hiking and seeing beautiful places. I love playing board games with my friends. It's
Ooh, what kind
problem
of board
solving.
games?
Oh, a lot of strategy stuff. Or one we've been playing is Arc Nova. We make a zoo, I guess. We fill it with animals. It's cute, but also can be cutthroat.
Oh,
And yeah, Terraforming Mars. There's a lot of board games that we've tried out, but it's fun solving puzzles with each other and being competitive. I also enjoy my naps if I'm feeling tired in the afternoon.
and that is an activity, is what you're saying.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yes.
It is, and
Yes.
I'm pro nap so long as you make sure you're not disrupting your nighttime sleep. Yeah, and I've cut out soda. I've tried to like minimize drinking and junk food as much as I can.
And the crossword puzzles, like you said.
Oh yeah, and the
puzzles,
crossword puzzles. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm trying to keep a streak going. It's difficult. in
You know,
that.
the board game thing. I mean, there was a piece in the Washington Post about how board games are a great way to keep your mind sharp. Hearing you say that you do it yourself makes me think that it may be time to dust off ye old Trivial Pursuit,
Yeah.
Candyland. Maybe I'll start at Candyland and then.
I mean, I think it's part of it is nice is like you could personalize it. What I like about it, it hits multiple factors, right? Like I have fun doing it. I feel less stressed, obviously. Well, or it's a good kind of stress that I'm losing a little bit to my rival, but I'm also socializing. I'm also engaging my brain. But like
It's low
figure out-
stakes.
it's low stakes too, so I'm not like actually stressed for my life.
You're not gambling.
No, I am not.
Richard, thank you so much. This has been great and really
Yeah.
enlightening and illuminating.
Yeah,
so
this
thank
was a
you.
lot of fun. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thanks. Have a good one.